Japan has long been the land of stealthy ninjas and fearless samurai, but in the modern era it has given rise to a new breed of warriors, fighters whose skill, ferocity, and destructive power rival anything from the country's legendary past. Today, the arenas of Tokyo, Osaka, and beyond are home to men and women who can end a contest in the blink of an eye, each fight a blend of precision, artistry, and sheer brutality. These are the knockouts and finishes that have left fans gasping and opponents unconscious. We begin with Naoya Inoue's WBO Junior Bantamweight title defense against former champion Kohei Kono in 2016. It wasn't just a boxing match, it was a one-sided dismantling. From the moment Kono entered the ring, something seemed wrong. The fire in his eyes had dimmed. His usually confident stride was hesitant, his body language betraying unease, as though he knew he was stepping into something beyond his preparation. Whether it was nerves or the chilling sight of Inoue warming up with cold focus across the ring, it was clear this would be a different kind of challenge. Inoue didn't come charging recklessly. He approached the bout like an artist, carefully sketching the outline before filling it with strokes of violence. He studied Kono, dissected his defenses, and found the gaps with clinical patience. Kono fought back bravely, refusing to fold under the mounting pressure. He kept throwing when he could, moving his head, circling, and jabbing in a desperate attempt to slow the storm. But fighting Inoue that night was like shadowboxing against a hurricane, one that was growing sharper and more lethal with each passing moment. Through 5 rounds, Inoue landed with surgical precision, cutting angles and slipping shots as though sparring in slow motion. He was faster, sharper, and meaner, and yet somehow looked effortless in his dominance. Then, in the 6th round, Inoue decided the time for artistry was over. He stepped in and unleashed a monstrous left hook that detonated on Kono's jaw, sending him to the canvas like a marionette with its strings cut. Kono rose, dazed and blinking, his body swaying as if he'd momentarily forgotten where he was. Referee Robert Bird allowed the fight to continue, perhaps out of respect for the veteran, but Inoue had no interest in dragging things out. He drove home 2 sledgehammer right hands that left Kono flat on the canvas, forcing the stoppage. It wasn't just a win, it was an erasure. Inoue had reminded the boxing world that he wasn't merely defeating contenders, he was eliminating them from the conversation. If Inoue is Japan's boxing king, then in the realm of kickboxing the crown rests firmly on the head of Tenshin Nasukawa. His blend of speed, creativity, and precision has made him a phenomenon both in kickboxing and MMA circles. Against Yusaku Nakamura, Tenshin delivered a performance so electrifying it could have been ripped straight from the climax of an anime. The fight began with a sharp left hand from Tenshin that snapped Nakamura's head back violently. From that moment, Nakamura was reduced to clinging and clinching, desperate to slow the relentless pace. But Tenshin moved like he was always 5 seconds ahead, evading with fluid grace and countering with punishing accuracy. Nakamura's footwork faltered as he was repeatedly caught off balance, each failed attack punished with stinging shots. Then came the moment fans would talk about for months. Tenshin unleashed a modified rolling thunder kick, an audacious, spinning strike that seemed more like a video game move than something that could land in a real fight. Nakamura staggered, confused and hurt, and though he tried to rally in the 2nd round, it was hopeless. Tenshin's pressure was unrelenting. Nakamura was driven into the ropes, stumbling like a man on roller skates headed downhill, and when Tenshin saw his chance, he dropped a crushing left hook that ended the contest instantly. In less than 2 rounds, Tenshin had shown the world that in modern Japan, the spirit of the ninja lives on in the form of a lightning-fast southpaw with a taste for spectacular finishes. In 2019, Japanese MMA saw one of its most shocking upsets when Kyoji Horiguchi met Kai Asakura in what was billed as a clash of aces. Horiguchi entered as a superstar, a champion in 2 promotions, riding a 13-fight win streak. Asakura, taller, younger, and ringier, showed no interest in bowing to Horiguchi's reputation. The fight began without hesitation, both men exchanging aggressively. Horiguchi, perhaps overconfident in his speed and explosiveness, lunged in recklessly, only to run straight into a perfectly timed right hand. His legs wobbled instantly, and though he tried to recover, the damage was done. From that point on, Horiguchi was swinging at air, chasing shadows, and leaving himself open. Asakura stayed calm, picked his moment, and delivered another perfectly placed shot that shut Horiguchi's lights out. It was a career-defining win for Asakura, one that announced him as a major player in Japanese MMA. Their rematch, however, would tell a different story. With the risen bantamweight title on the line, Horiguchi returned a changed fighter, disciplined, methodical, and unwilling to repeat his earlier mistake. From the start, he attacked Asakura's legs with brutal calf kicks, chipping away at his mobility. Each strike drained the spring from Asakura's footwork, slowed his movements, and opened the door for clean shots to the head. As the fight progressed, Asakura's stance crumbled, his steps became labored, and his defenses slackened. In desperation, he lunged forward, but Horiguchi anticipated the attack, slipped the shot, and unleashed a finishing combination that dropped Asakura hard. The difference between the two bouts was stark. In the first, Horiguchi's recklessness cost him. In the second, his composure won the day, and in 2020, Ren Hiramoto walked into Risen 26 brimming with swagger. A former K1 kickboxing prodigy, he carried himself like a street boss who knew the crowd was there for him. But in MMA, the cage doesn't care about swagger. Against Kohei Hagiwara, reality hit him instantly. The moment the fight began, Hagiwara ragdolled him, dragging him to the canvas and hammering away. Takedown after takedown, punch after punch, Hiramoto's confidence was stripped away. The highlight reel he had brought with him from kickboxing meant nothing here, and by the end of the fight, his aura of invincibility was gone. But the fight game is nothing if not unpredictable, and at Super Risen 3, Hiramoto flipped the script. Facing Mikuru Asakura, he immediately showed he wasn't there to be bullied. They traded sharp kicks early, but when Asakura tried to push the pace, Hiramoto found his opening, a perfectly timed left hook that dropped Asakura hard. Asakura tried to get up, but the damage was irreversible. Hiramoto swarmed, sealing a shocking victory and restoring his place in the conversation. Then there was Nakadra Takumi versus Sono Yumi in 2021, a fight that started like a routine win for Yumi and ended as a masterclass in low kicks. Takumi entered without fanfare, looking more like a last-minute replacement than a dangerous opponent. Yumi came out aggressively, firing combinations as if determined to make a statement. For the first minute, it looked like Takumi would be little more than target practice. But then Takumi made his adjustment. He started attacking Yumi's lead leg with thudding low kicks. No setup, no feints, just relentless repetition. Within minutes, the damage was visible. Yumi's movement slowed, his stance began to collapse, and every step seemed to hurt. The first knockdown came when Takumi swept Yumi's legs cleanly out from under him. Yumi rose gingerly, but Takumi went straight back to the same attack. Another low kick landed flush, and Yumi crumpled like a felled tree. Takumi hadn't needed his hands, just a single weapon, applied with ruthless consistency. These fights are more than highlight reels. They're stories of skill, timing, and the razor-thin margins that separate dominance from disaster. Inoue's surgical destruction of Kono showed the precision of a master technician who can end a fight the moment he chooses. Tenshin's demolition of Nakamura proved that creativity and flair can coexist with cold efficiency. The Horiguchi-Asakura duology demonstrated how quickly fortunes can shift when adjustments are made. Hiramoto's contrasting performances reminded everyone that arrogance can be punished, but redemption is always possible. And Takumi's dismantling of Yumi was a lesson in how sometimes the simplest weapon, used without mercy, can break even the toughest foe. Japanese combat sports continue to produce these moments, fights that blur the line between art and violence. Whether it's in the squared circle, the kickboxing ring, or the MMA cage, the nation's fighters carry forward the legacy of the samurai spirit. Disciplined, relentless, and always dangerous. Every time they step into battle, there's a chance for something unforgettable to happen. A single strike, a sudden turn, or a knockout that leaves the crowd frozen in awe before erupting into roars. And for fans, that's the magic. These are not just contests. They are modern duels, fought with gloves instead of swords, but carrying the same weight of honor, risk, and the possibility of glory or ruin in a heartbeat.